It's been there since the foundation of the world, reshaping man's thoughts and ideas of life and redirecting man's pursuit in life to fit its agenda. It's a matter of disguise, working through men endlessly, using every way to hinder the advancement of the kingdom of God. It's Mammon, the spirit behind money. Charles and Susan Opio, in their book Unmasking Mammon, help their readers unmask this deadly spirit and embark on a journey back to the Father. Unmasking Mammon is a must-read. Now available on Amazon and on order at cyruscom254@gmail.com for physical copies. Grab your copy today and start off your journey to overcoming the spirit of Mammon. Unmasking Mammon by Charles and Susan Opio.
Hello and welcome to the Cyrus community. This is Business Unusual, the place where we talk about kingdom business reformation. And here we are telling the believer in the marketplace that now you must find your space because it is time to thrive. It is time for kingdom advancement. We've been talking about wealth transfer. And when we talk about wealth transfer, we asked ourselves a pertinent question, that when we say the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the just, who is the just and who is the wicked? And we said, could we be the wicked that the Bible is talking about, and you're busy waiting for the transfer of wealth? There are many adjustments that we have seen ever since. And of course, in our last conversation, when we talked about the widow, we have seen there were some key dynamic factors that were important for the widow to navigate from a position of looming poverty to a position of relative wealth.
Yes, absolutely.
And,
Yes. And now the thing is this. Think about it. When she first arrives, her mindset is a mindset we all have, and we'll remind you of that because every time you identify yourself, you'll find the way out. Is to have the wrong expectation because your crisis in your mind is what God needs to respond to. Yet, God is not responding to your crisis. Your crisis is a result of you not walking in a certain reality. So God gives you the reality so that not only are you totally outside of such crises, you might even benefit someone else. So, to understand where this woman was coming from, a place of looming poverty to relative wealth, there are these dynamics we want to look at. There are 4 dynamics, you can call them factors, that drawn from the same scripture, like we warned you. There are so many layers in that passage, that if you pull out, they'll be able to help you to kind of have this simple checklist in your head per time to help you navigate every time something happens to you. So she needed these 4 dynamics or factors to move forward. I'll mention the 4, then we'll break them down. The first factor was a proceeding word. So no matter what you think your crisis is, you don't need your crisis looked at. You need a proceeding word.
Yes.
That will change how you approach things. So don't go for a proceeding word only trying to filter what deals with your crisis. Because if you do that, that's why you always end up not getting a result.
Okay.
The second thing was resources. What resources are needed once you get a proceeding word? The next thing is relationships. What relationships are crucial for your journey to move forward? Because relationships can be part of your paralysis or part of your progress. So you have to be very clear how your relationships are positioned. And the final thing is opportunities. In an earlier conversation, we said God gives us opportunities. We create outcomes. Okay? So, let's now break this 4 dynamics.
So, the first one was the proceeding word.
Yes.
And this is the word that comes through a conversation.
Yes.
God will speak to you through whichever way, depending on your growth level.
Yes.
We always say that when you talk about a child who is a newborn, and you talk about the same person when they're at 50 years, they hear the voice of their father, but depending on their age, they hear differently.
There you go.
Hearing, they hear. Interpretation is another thing.
That's a different,
depending on your age. So when you talk about the proceeding word, we are talking about the word that carries the seed and bread.
Yes.
Now, depending on your age in the spirit,
I'm telling you, why this becomes very important is it's also crucial. Even in the parable of the sower, Jesus begins by saying that the sower sowed seed. He didn't say a man scattered seed. He said A sower. Meaning the one who was sowing was equipped, trained, and understood sowing.
So when we say the proceeding word, it doesn't just arrive.
Yes.
It comes from a source.
A source, an authentic source. You have a responsibility to find an authentic source. And what is an authentic source in this context?
Okay.
An authentic source is one that brings you seed, not just bread.
So every time you're listening to the conversation, you should be
Yes.
asking yourself, am I hearing? And of course, this is after, if you go back to our conversations, the
Yes.
last 3 conversations,
Yes.
we've been talking about the seed and bread.
Yes.
So when you talk about authentic source, is the one that comes to bring you
Yes.
from where you are to where you're supposed to be. You
Exactly.
can't go there with bread only.
Exactly.
But you need seed.
Yes, so
Yeah?
so that means 2 things. The one sowing, the one speaking, should be one who's bringing when we agreed, there'll be some element of bread, but that's not your primary interest. Your interest is seed. Secondly, it means your own attitude towards that which you hear. Because again, if you go back to the parable of the sower, there was nothing wrong with the sower or the seed.
It was the ground.
That was the problem.
Yeah?
It was how it was received that was the problem.
Okay.
Not the seed, not the sower.
Okay.
So when there's a proper sower and proper seed, then you have begun your journey properly.
And in this case of the widow,
Yes.
talking about Elisha and the
Yes.
widow, here we are talking about the widow came to the prophet.
Yes.
Meaning she recognized the prophet as her authentic source.
There you go.
Of hearing the word of God
Yes.
that will change everything in her environment.
Exactly.
She recognized that where I am right now, I don't have a word that can get me out of here. I
That's
have
it.
to go.
That's
I have
it.
to pursue. And when we
Yes.
talk about going, we are saying you must have a heart that
Yes.
is stretched out to
Yes.
receive the word.
Yes.
You don't sit in a comfort position, a lazy position, where you say the word comes, it doesn't come, I'm not even pursuing. You can
Exactly.
see she came to the prophet.
That's it.
She is pursuing. She recognized I need to stand up and leave my position that is already causing me problems and go to a new position.
There you go.
A place where I can receive
And,
the word.
and I love what you said.
Yes.
She came to the prophet. The prophet did not go to her.
Pursue the word.
What does that mean? When you come to this live stream,
Yes.
did you come to the prophet or are we coming to you?
Oh.
If we're coming to you, we'll keep pushing and getting no response. But if you come to this, something changes.
So this should be a deliberate action that you're doing,
Yes.
where you say, listen, intentionally I'm coming to listen to the conversations because I want a word that can change this particular. There's no one who can be watching us and saying, listen, me, I'm fine. Me, I'm fine. No. Look at your life and say, there's a place you might be calling comfort.
Yes.
And God is telling you,
Yes.
can you move forward?
There
And
you
like we always repeat, like the patriarchs, always see something and
Yes.
tell yourself that is better than where I am. When you hear when God speaks
Yes.
to us and says, you are my son, when you look at your life, do you see a son of God?
There you
Meaning, when the minute God tells you you are a son of God, He's already giving you a picture so that you can look at that word and let that word pull you, because you're telling yourself that sonship is better than what I
There
am
you go.
today. So,
Yes.
coming to the word.
Exactly.
Yes.
And once you've received a word, the next thing she was told, go to your neighbors and borrow vessels. Relationships. Listen, people are absolutely important to have in your life.
Wow.
Ask Joseph. This is why it is always important to live every relationship better
Then you found
than
it.
you found it. Always treat people better than they treat you. Please hold on to that statement.
Okay.
Always treat people better than they treat you.
I love what you said. Ask Joseph.
Ask Joseph.
Because when you treat people better than they treat you, Joseph knows this well too well.
He knows it too
But
well.
when you say that relationships are important, and you say people are absolutely important to have in your life, we are saying there are two kinds of people.
Yes.
We always say that there are those who are thrusting you into your destiny. Sometimes like Joseph,
Yes.
not in a nice way, which you
Yeah,
might
yeah.
look and say, it's human beings
Yes.
that are thrusting me.
Yes.
But my friend, I need human beings to enter my destiny.
That's it.
So whenever you look at people, you don't say, listen, because my brothers threw me in a pit and then they sold me to the slave masters, I don't need people. In fact, I'm now closing myself.
Yeah,
in. I don't
people.
want people.
I want
God
to be on
tells
my
you, you
own.
needed your brothers to push you to the next level of what you're supposed
Let me
to be
tell
doing.
you, there is no producing wealth without people.
Oh. Yeah.
And that's why live every relationship. Why? Don't abuse relationships. Make use of relationships. Now, making use is not using.
I was going to say, please explain. Please explain.
Making use is by, first of all, like we said, leave every relationship better. Treat people better than they treat you. That should be natural to you. In other words, listen, probably the next most important capital after seed capital, after what you have in you, is social capital.
Okay.
If you have poor social capital, you might have the best seed capital and you'll not be able to go anywhere.
So you might have the seed capital.
Yes.
You have the word, you have, even though you've received the word of God.
Exactly.
That word of God requires humans in your life. Because if you look at Joseph, he had a word.
Yeah.
But this word needed people for it to become.
There you go.
So if you're using people, because you see there are some people who use in the sense of, I only hang out with people who are empowering me. It sounds nice.
Sounds nice.
That's Babylon.
Who are you empowering?
Who are you empowering? Are you the kind of person that people want to hang around?
Yes.
Are you the kind of person who empowers others? Are you the kind of person who is happy when others make it? Are you only in a place because you're benefiting? Those are questions to ask when it comes to social capital.
Let me ask you, when you interact with people and leave them, do you add value or take value? Simple question.
I think that's a good question to just, you know, when you say seller.
Yeah. So think about it this way, okay? That every time you interact with somebody, you could be dealing with a wall or a door.
Wow.
Make your mind up. If you treat them right, they could be a door. And the door might not be today's door.
Okay.
Because I said, ask Joseph. There's something he did for someone in prison that 2 years later mattered.
The person you're meeting today, don't think that every person you're meeting,
must give you
they're
value
here
now.
to give you value. They're here to help you get out of this.
Yes.
Ask yourself, could this be the door I'll need
Exactly.
3 years from now? That's why you said, leave people. They leave relationships better than when you came in.
And don't see people as trees. Like
Explain,
one
please.
man,
Yes.
Jesus opened his eyes and said, do you see? Yes. What do you see? I see people as trees. He said, hey, I better touch this guy again. I now see clearly. Why? Because seeing people as trees, you're always going to be the parasite. You're always the one drawing from, taking from. After a while, nobody wants you because every time you leave them depleted.
You are here to drain
You don't
us,
add anything.
not to add anything. And that's why it's so important that when you get into business, do not get into business with a mentality of I'm going to just
I'm going to make it.
I'm going to look at to see people as my providers, as where I'll get money. So every relationship, even people you've known for so long, you now turn them into your capital. You're looking at people as you actually, when you see humans, you're asking yourself, how much can I get from this? Meaning the spirit of mammon is what is now dictating your relationships.
You do the thing the devil tried to make Jesus do. Turn these stones into bread. That's not what you're doing. You are the one bringing value.
Yes.
The woman brought oil. Everybody needed oil. It was beneficial to them.
Yes.
That's the principle. So when he says go get vessels, relationships are so crucial to your next level of operations. In fact, I would say other than seed capital, it's the next most important capital if you're able to produce wealth. So remember, usually people are important. Why? Because they are the actual access point to the other two factors. Remember, we gave you 4 factors.
Okay.
Look at how they're incremental. The first factor, because these factors are not in isolation. They work in relationship, but they also work in progression.
Yes.
All right? So it's interesting that the first is seed capital. Seed capital first opens you up to people. It says, go to your neighbors. You already have oil.
Okay.
Borrow vessels. Borrow vessels means benefit from that relationship. Work with it.
Yes.
Have value with it. Remember, some of those vessels, if you poured your oil, it means you benefited them. There are many levels to this truth.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
So if you get your social capital correct, then people are the access point to the other 2 levels. Now, in this way, the third thing I talked about is resources. Now, why do I say resources? The first resource was what was within your reach. Okay? But that resource, its ability to multiply, may need other resources which come from relationships with people.
People.
Okay?
Leave relationships better. Do not burn your bridges.
Exactly.
Do not go out there. You know, there are people who, when they exit a particular position, now it's almost like to find relevance here, you trash here.
You never do.
You do not look back and say, where I came from, now I have to look. It's like going to high school and talking bad about your
Yes.
primary school.
Yes.
You needed that moment at
There you
the
go.
time at the primary school.
Yes.
You don't go to high school and start telling everybody there, you know what, even the things they taught us, by the way, even the way they used to teach us, even the way they did, that's what churches do. I mean, Christians do. That if you leave one church and go to the next, instead of seeing this relationship as your stepping stone to the next, you start trashing the last.
In fact,
Relationships.
it's funny, even Babylon knows this.
Yes.
Babylon, when you come to our job, they ask you, what are your references?
Where are you coming
not
from?
just your qualifications. What are your references? How did you leave people?
There's a statement you always say about that leaving people.
Yes.
If your path,
Listen, if your life is full of chaos, your path is littered with dishonor.
oh, guys, look at your life today.
That's it.
There are things that could be happening to you today
Yes.
because of the dishonor in
That's
your
it.
past. But you
That's
know
it.
what? You are not seeing your past. You are only looking at your present, and you don't realize, listen, if only I can sort this out, this will be fine. We are not
Very
talking about
crucial.
anyone cursing you. No, we are simply saying you living your path littered with dishonor.
That's it.
You know?
That's-
I mean, full of chaos.
Yeah, and that's why you're living in chaos. And why is this important? And this is the reason it happens. Remember, whenever you start off or you've been out of a crisis, you do, by default, you don't have great relationships. Think about it. When you've been in debt for a while, you've been in problems for a while, do you realize many of the valuable relationships that would have changed this situation are no longer in your ambit? Right?
That's what debt does.
That's what debt does.
So when you say debt is a spirit and it is not your friend,
Yes.
don't say I'm managing debt. No, it's
it's
managing
managing
you.
you.
And the first thing it does, it will kill
Yes.
your relationships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if your relationships are tangible, remember, I may have an excellent product, okay? But I don't have the relationships that need that product.
Yeah.
Now, my relationship with just you might give access to my product to a group of people I would never have reached.
But because I know you,
Yes,
I get into your ambit.
exactly.
Wow.
So, even though I have the best resources, that's why you notice I put people before, relationships before resources.
Yes.
Because in normal situations, you'd think having resources is the primary.
That's what Babylon tells us. That
Yes.
all you need is capital. No, you need social capital
Yes.
before you go
Otherwise-
for material resources
Exactly.
or assets. Yeah.
So that's what, do you know, we now have a term called brand. Oh, what brand? I have a brand. I want to create my brand. You can't. Brand is a reputation.
Yeah.
The term brand, really correctly interpreted, is what? Reputation. Reputation comes from a good history and good relationships. That's what a brand
And
really
more so
is.
in this season or in this era of YouTube, I want to open my YouTube channel. You know, because you see my brand and you talk about this, my brand, you talk about this, me. And somebody says, my friend, when you talk of YouTube, you need humans.
Yes.
So there are many people who think it's just about opening a YouTube page and people will come. In fact, I don't want people around me. People will come from nations across the earth. And God is telling you, my friend, relationships.
You normally mean my assets, not my brand.
So you're talking of?
I want to market my assets, but using the term my brand. No, you don't have a brand yet.
Brand is reputation.
Brand is a reputation. Brand is a signature. Brand is who we know you to be.
No.
All right?
Yeah.
And who we know you to be does not come from you. It comes from those you've related with, us. It is the social capital you have that tells us who you are, not you.
Wow.
You will always polish, overestimate, or underestimate yourself. But it is people who've interacted with you that give you tangible brand. So resources are very important. You must have material capacity. You must have the preceding word activates your potential, activates your capacity, activates your skill. But if those things are put there and there is no relationship, Joseph could be the greatest dream interpreter if the butler did not put him next to Pharaoh. To Pharaoh, he would not have had any value.
So we're talking about, yes, resources are important.
Yes.
And this could include material or
Yes.
asset. This could
Yes.
include tangible or intangible.
Yes.
But there will always be adequate resources within our reach
Yes.
when we have been activated by the
Exactly.
word, the proceeding word.
Exactly.
But this has to be, you can never ignore the social capital.
That's
no
it.
matter how much money you have to start a
Yes.
business, no matter how much assets you have, even though you've been activated by a proceeding word and you are aligned with it in your spheres, my friend, you need humans, you need people,
Exactly.
you need social capital. So you cannot
Yes.
ignore that.
Yes, and this is why it's important. For example, you talk about market space a lot, and you'll notice she'll always remind you, because that's where our focus is, market space. The market space is in the marketplace. The marketplace is relationships.
Yes.
But your resources take you to the market space.
Okay.
But in the market space, with all the best resources,
Without people.
without people,
Oh.
it's not going anywhere. And that's why you begin hearing a term called brand loyalty. Brand loyalty is not based on price. The people will pay more for a brand they trust
Yes.
than pay cheap for a brand they don't know. That's the difference.
So don't go to the market space
Yes.
thinking I'm going to be cheap because
Yes.
that's what people want. No. It's not about cheapness here. It's about you coming and saying, wait, have you built your brand? People
Uh-huh.
trust you. Do people
Yes.
know you? Do they trust you?
Yes.
So here now when you talk of the market space, now that's why we're talking about church versus kingdom. From a church perspective, go and start whatever you want to start and ask your neighbors, how much is yours? $2, make yours 1.5. No.
That's not the
In the
problem,
market
people.
space,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
about people.
Yes.
People.
People who love you.
Yeah.
Listen, even in creation, we see God creates. Listen, people don't overrate real resources in terms of material.
Yes. Yes.
Because the word is the most important thing. God gave, God spoke.
Yes.
The word. The word created material. Material resources came before you.
Okay.
So resources is not your greatest strength. Resources, it only has strength when the word goes into your potential,
Yes.
your ability, then you can turn resources into something tangible. Then it can have value. But even if you do that and there are no relationships.
Yes. And when you talk about relationships here,
Yes.
do you see when you talk about God, even in when you see the life of Jesus, the Bible says that, and the child grew in wisdom, stature, but it finishes with something, and in favor with God and with man.
There you go.
Relationship. God knew there's no you're going to be in this earth without people.
Please take that progression. You're rushing something absolutely powerful. And the child increased in wisdom. That comes from who?
God. Yes.
Knowledge.
Yes.
From who?
God.
Favor. From who? God. And then with man.
Man.
Do you notice the progression?
Yes.
So, wisdom from God, knowledge, your own capacity, your own skills, your own stature, your own ability to do, that's a resource environment.
Yes.
And then favor, because favor with God and man means there's a relationship model you have that is so powerful that opens doors for you.
Yes.
Bible says, and God and Joseph had favor with Pharaoh. Technically, did he? No, he had favor with God that gave him
then-
favor with Pharaoh.
You need favor with God.
Yes.
And why? Because when you say you're increasing in wisdom, remember we said that's the proceeding one.
Yes.
The minute you have the proceeding one, and that's what dictates your life, then my friend, favor with God is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
The Bible talks about, and you increase in your stature. What does
Yes.
that tell you? Even in your skills, capacity, you're increasing. Then favor with God and man. When you have favor with man, that is where we are saying
Yes.
that if you now have material and assets,
Yes.
when you have your capital, what you call the capital now,
Yes.
and you go out and you have favor with men, watch, even though you're coming from the desert,
Toil disappears.
men will be attracted to you. Why? Because in your life, you have lifted the proceeding word. When the word is lifted up, it attracts men.
to itself.
So you're not looking for people. You know, also the other problem, when people think that I need someone to connect me, I need connections, the word tells you, lift the word, take the instruction, lift it up, it attracts men to itself.
Can I give you a secret for relationships?
Yes?
Develop relationships one at a time. One day they'll multiply. You'll be shocked.
Oh yes.
Because when the word gets out you're doing something, somebody will call somebody. Somebody will tell somebody, have you heard? Don't you know? Please get it's going on without you.
Yes.
But because you took time to develop now, even in creation, God does something interesting to see this principle.
Yes.
We said God creates, puts resources in the earth, puts man in the garden. Then God says something very interesting. In the entire creation process, no matter how powerful you put it, no relationship, it won't work. It is not good for man to be alone. What is God dealing with? The relational factor that brings the proper productivity and increase in everything else. So if you understand that concept, you'll understand then whether you like it or not, you build whatever you're building. The next thing you're going to look for is people.
Yes.
Now,
why do businesses close down?
Yes.
Because there are no people. Why do we say my business failed? You're simply telling us people did not come, because without people coming in, her business will close.
Yes.
No matter how beautiful.
Exactly.
Now, do you realize also, before we go to the next point of our opportunities,
Yes.
do you notice there are many people who, when they start a business,
Yes.
they look for an office.
Yep.
They furnish it with
Yes.
the best.
Yes.
Before they get people, before they even know how. Then they
Exactly.
think tomorrow we open doors and people will
People
just
will
flock.
come.
No. Don't rush for material assets before you ask yourself, how do I live relationships? And that's so key. Where you go back and like walk in your own life.
Yes.
And ask yourself, how do I live relationships? How do I relate to people? How do I value people? How do I see people? How do I rate people? Because there are others also who think, by the way, this is where I am.
Yes.
There are some people who are up, there are others who are down. If you
There
think people, divide people like that, and you open a business, who are you looking for?
There you go.
You'll always think there are people I see down here, I don't see them as my clients and customers.
And it's your perception, it's not a reality. Don't decide what you think happens.
Yes.
Observe what happens. There's a difference between you deciding and you observing. Let me tell you, like you said something about, too many people think that having a facility, having a product, having all that equals business. There are people today with excellent facilities,
yes.
excellent products, excellent everything, and they're not making money. What's wrong? There has to be a different order. See, Babylon gives you the false order, but Babylon focuses on places, not on realities.
Yes.
Okay? Now, I'll give you a simple example. Talk about our book, Unmasking Mammon. You hear from God, you shut yourself in, you write the book, you place it out there. But if you have no relationships, it goes nowhere. But even when you have relationships, when the right person hears and tells the right person, you know the next question they ask?
Yeah.
Where do we get? The where is last.
Yeah. And it's the last thing.
Where do we get this book? How do we get it?
Yes.
All those did not start by us starting to decide, you know what we're going to do? We're going to write a book, we're going to put it in every bookshop. The wires were already there.
Yeah.
That's not how it goes.
I think also there's another important question to ask. You have this product, you want to place it out there, and you want people to come and buy. Do you buy other people's products?
There you go.
Are you somebody's customer? Are you somebody's client? Are you somebody's buyer?
Yes. Why do you think people should buy from you when you buy from no one? This is how this entire system works. So now we talk.
Sorry, before we go.
Yes.
Please get what I'm trying to ask here.
Yes.
I'm not trying to say, because you buy things every day.
Yes.
Are you conscious that before I buy something from anywhere, I will look at my brother, my sister, my relationship? I want to know if they have this product.
Are you deliberate?
Are you deliberate? Because there are many people who, when they want to buy, they don't even think about it. It's almost like, listen, I'm going where I'm not known. You are empowering another at the expense of one that you know. But tomorrow, when you bring your product, you expect me, who you run away from when you want to buy.
Yeah.
So that's what we're asking. Are you deliberate? Are you intentional in your buying? That's how people will be intentional. When we say that you have favor with God and man, we're not saying that it's blind. We are saying you're in a good alignment.
That's it.
Yes.
The scripture says it. It says this. Do good to all men. No problem.
Yes.
But especially to those of the household of faith. Meaning prioritize.
Yes.
If there are no options, no problem. But wherever it is within your power to do so, be deliberate.
Yes.
Because when you're deliberate, one of the things you're doing, you're keeping the economy within the kingdom. And if you keep the economy in the kingdom, the economy value rises. Economic value rises, even you will get value back.
And you see also when you talk about being deliberate, we are saying that today you have a brother or a sister who is selling building materials. You are not building. So you'll stand here and say, you know what, I'm not building, therefore I have nothing to do with that business. No. When you come to the kingdom, we say that when you're listening to a conversation, wherever you are, you're listening from different frequencies. There is the frequency of what I require. I need something. So I'm listening on a frequency of who is selling what I need. But there is another frequency where as I listen to you, I hear of something that I know my sister, my brother is doing.
Yeah,
so I might not be building my house right now, but I can hear someone else who is building and I direct them to my brother, my sister. That's another hearing. There's a hearing where you're now hearing for others, not for you. That is kingdom.
Let me put this in perspective.
Yes.
Kingdom economy and keeping the kingdom economy moving is not always purchasing. All right?
Yes.
It is making sure there is a purchase.
Please say that again.
Listen carefully.
Yeah.
Keeping the kingdom economy moving is not always you specifically purchasing,
Okay.
but you causing a purchase. When you cause a purchase, when you recommend a brother and money moves from A to B in them, you have done a transaction in the kingdom. In the kingdom records, you have transacted.
Yes.
You may not have used your money, but you transacted. And if there's a value system growing in the kingdom of your value, you've raised it.
Yes.
That is a transaction beyond what you think.
Yeah.
Because we always think a transaction is only when it comes through me or when I do it. But when I cause it to happen, I still cause a transaction. Listen, there are people who can cause a loss without touching the money.
Oh, don't buy from that brother. Don't buy from that sister. By the way, and sometimes you don't even say anything.
Yeah.
You say, you know what? I bought those cups from there. They break so easily.
That's it.
You just stopped a conversation,
A
a transaction.
transaction.
You just stopped a transaction. And you know what? There are times we say, yes, there are some products that are bad quality.
But here's the value.
But there are some products that I could have bought that 1 in a million that was going to break. Don't generalize.
And
don't
if-
be the one who is stopping the
And
kingdom
if it-
movement.
And if it happens,
Yes.
get into the second part of transaction.
Yes.
Help the person improve. You've again increased transaction.
Talk to the person.
Yes. Come
You
and say,
realize all
listen,
that is kingdom
those
relationships.
are transactions.
Yes.
Transaction is not just money. Transaction is me showing you how to improve your product.
Yes.
And when that improves, and therefore you're able to make more, I caused a transaction.
So you're giving feedback with the heart of the kingdom of I want you to
Exactly.
improve.
Yes.
Because I want to see my brother, my sister, I want them to rise.
Yes.
I want you to improve. That's why I'm telling you this. So even me, when you're talking to me, I should hear it from the kingdom of listen, somebody is concerned
Yes.
about my growth.
So I ask you,
I love that.
are you a cause of increase in the kingdom or decrease? By your conversations, by what you recommend, by what you choose not to recommend, by what you pretend not to have heard.
We are talking about hearing in different frequencies.
That's
and this
how
time, we are
opportunities
saying
are
our heart
imperative.
is so alive
Yes.
that I want to see others prosper.
Exactly.
Therefore, even though I don't need your product, I
Yes.
know people who will need it.
There
When I
you go.
hear it, I recommend them.
Exactly.
That is talking about resources.
Yes.
So let's talk about opportunities.
Yes, opportunities need perception, which again, notice everything we said dovetails into another. Sometimes I can see opportunity for another, not for me. But because I saw opportunity for another, I put something into the kingdom economy system that will cause another to see for me. So opportunities are not just what you can take advantage of by yourself.
Yes.
Opportunities are what you can make available for others to access.
That's
So
powerful.
opportunities is not just what you enter, but what you allow people to enter. You could be the creator of opportunity.
I think when we reach here, you know, when you talk about a community,
Yes.
a community is where we say we are looking out for others. When you talk about otherness in the kingdom, we are simply saying, listen, I don't sit here and just live for me, myself, and I live for us.
Yes.
When you go to God, we say, our Father.
That's
Now, when you find yourself going to God and saying, oh my Father, oh my God, come through for me, you have just broken a kingdom principle that if you can go to your Father as you, not our, you're coming back into the earth as you. You understand that? So in the earth, you're supposed to come back with that same mentality of our,
Yes.
us,
Yes.
others.
Yes.
So when I see someone, I love what you just said. I see an
Exactly.
opportunity,
Yes.
it might not be for me.
Absolutely.
But I can come and say, guys, I've seen these opportunities and I know you might benefit from it.
That's it.
Please see.
That's
Please check.
Yes.
Please walk here.
Yes.
So opportunities for me
Yeah.
and opportunities for others go
Yes.
beyond you.
And when opportunities open up, this is what is required of you in any case. You must always be building up on your skills. See, many of us build skills to try and get opportunity.
Okay.
Instead of building skills so that when opportunity comes, you can step in. Oh, I have to take this new course so that I can get that job. Wrong. Get skills. When the opportunities show up, you're ready. That's the principle. When she was told to go into the room, she began to expand herself.
Yes.
When she came out, the opportunities were now immense. Kings, prophets, whatever. The
So you're
skills were now in
always
place.
preparing because you know
Yes.
that opportunities, and you said
Yes.
something.
Yes.
There are doors that will open.
They will open.
There are some that open, and of course you're like, that's not my door, but it's open. Meaning I can
Yes.
get somebody else there. But this is
Exactly.
my door. Am
Yes.
I prepared?
That's
Or
it.
am I now starting to prepare
Exactly.
when the door starts opening?
And you know the funny thing about opportunities and assets, they pre-exist you. You're just blind to them. Before she went into the room, nobody was crowned king in the window that she went to the room. Nobody was made a prophet in that window. They were already there. They already required oil. She was the one who was
When you
missing.
talk about heaven
Yes.
backing us up,
Yes.
that's what you're saying.
Heaven backing you up is not you starting something and heaven chasing you. Heaven Heaven is not back up where you call it, hey, heaven, now we are going in. Are you coming
Can
with
you
us?
come?
No. Heaven backing you up means heaven already put everything in place.
Yes.
It is you who needs to expand and benefit from what heaven had already made available.
And you trust in heaven that when
Exactly.
I step out into
Yes.
this opportunity, heaven
That's
had
it.
already, like you're saying,
Yes.
already placed everything to fall in
Absolutely.
place. So when you walk in and we say heaven is backing you up,
Yes.
things are falling in place because they were already waiting for you to happen.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, in a simple context, if you remember the parable of the talents, capacity equals greater access. Every time you increase your capacity from a word, you've already grown, doors open, you're able to handle more and more. It's not that you are growing the doors, you're only multiplying your capacity. The more you multiply, the bigger the door you can enter. Okay? So listen, we have to learn to use our relationships well.
Yes.
All right? So, think again what we've been saying. A word is coming. I receive that word. That word activates what I already carried.
Yes.
But alongside, you notice something very funny about God. No matter what God does, He does not remove the reality of man with you. Thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart,
Yes.
all your soul, all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. There is nothing in the kingdom that is only for you that does not benefit and impact others.
And there's nowhere God will tell you, well done, faithful servant. You really served
Yes.
me
No.
well in the earth. You really prayed well. You fasted well. You're only facing
Yes.
earth. God tells you, my friend, face the earth.
That's it.
That is where
Yes.
favor comes.
Yes.
You need favor in the earth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you have a proper word, you have good relationships.
Yes.
Opportunities will keep showing up for you everywhere, and every opportunity that you serve well, your capacity grows. You increase in resources.
Yes.
These are all tools of wealth. Listen, because there's something that is very important for us to understand. Right from the beginning, God's desire is for us not just to increase, that's primary, but to have visibility and impact.
Okay.
If you have visibility and impact, because God is always about impact.
Impact, yes.
So He'll increase you with that intent. But the divine order that is important. So far, we have been saying a number of things that you have to get this so embedded in you.
Yes.
That it draws from that scripture, it draws from what we've been talking about, wealth transfer, it draws from so much, is this. You have to be before you can do. And then you have to do before you can have.
If there's anything we've been trying to say in all these conversations, this is, you have to be.
Be before you can do.
Do.
Be fruitful, multiply, have dominion. Notice, I skipped deliberately. Dominion
Yeah.
is the last.
Yes.
Be fruitful,
Do.
multiply,
Have.
have. That's God's divine order. Many of us want to have
Before we be.
before we be. Many of us think doing will cause us to have. Listen,
I think when you talk about be, sorry. Yeah.
in other words, each aspect is true, but you cannot violate the order. You cannot have without doing. And you can't do without being. Why are we always in trouble? Because Babylon gives you the other two. Do to have. It's called toil.
And that is toil. If you
Yeah.
can be.
Be before you do.
Yes.
Be. No, the funny thing about being before you do is that once you have been or you have become, you never change.
This is who
The
you
doing
are
can
now.
change.
So the being is internal. It is
Yes.
you changing here. When you talk about renewal of your mind, this is what
Yes.
we are talking about. Be. Because if you renew your mind, when you have now seen something new, you
Yes.
cannot unsee.
Exactly.
You are now this thing that you have seen.
Yes.
So if you be, your mind changes. Once it changes, it cannot unchange.
There you go.
You are now in a position called being. So
Yes.
question is, what have we been being?
That's a problem. Yes. What have we been? Because what you have been being,
This is
I like those
English.
two words.
It's
What you
English.
have been being
Yes.
is always going to dictate what you do and what you have.
So maybe all along, instead of being what God is saying,
Yes.
we've been being what men
Everything
are saying,
else.
what the world is saying. And that is where when you go to do or to think we can have, there is toil.
Exactly.
So what is in here? When you talk of mind renewal and we say be before you do,
Yes.
we're talking about mind renewal.
Exactly.
Become this person who looks at the word that they have received, and the word causes them to change. That's what the word does. That's what locking yourself, shutting
That's
the
it.
door, being in the closet. It is changing
Yes.
how you think, how you see things, your perspective of life. That's when you're being. When you come out, you're another person. Your sight now is being dictated by something inside of you, not something external.
And here's our problem.
Yeah.
If you get this order wrong, here's the crisis. If I was to add a number 4, would be when you have, you can now see. Result. Okay? But most of us go and look at a result, which we want to have. We're working in reverse. That thing is what I want to have. Therefore, I will do to have. You've already on the wrong road. Because God has no problem with you having. But this kind of having, if you try that model, you will not have, it will have you. You'll be obsessed by the wrong thing. So we run around doing. That's why you say, I'll do anything. Have you heard of that statement? I will do anything to get that. You started wrong already.
Do.
Because Psalms 1 tells you, this man meditates, meaning he is a being. Now, when you have been, whatsoever you do.
Because you are somebody else. How you see,
Yes.
how you interpret, how you
Yes.
you interact
Yes.
is different.
Yes.
When you've already
Exactly.
been.
Now, here's the difference.
Yes.
The guy who has been, past tense,
Okay.
can do whatever, and he will have. Okay? Person who has not been will do whichever and never really have. So when you see
The
them
process.
both acting, one is doing, chasing this. That's why the person who has not been does this abundance, does that abundance, tries that abundance, because he's never been. He has no anchor.
So you're looking for a result, but there's nothing inside of you to attract that.
Yes.
So you're trying everything.
Exactly.
Or you're holding on to one and dying with it, hoping it will work.
And its time is over. So the person who is doing whatever, you know what they do? They keep observing. When you're trying to do this, you see somebody else doing something, you jump. Because it's not coming from within, it's coming from without. But the guy who knows they are seeing from within what
Yes.
they're about to do. They are not observing from without.
And we can see this was God's original mandate
Yes.
to us, and he has not changed his mind.
Absolutely.
God started by telling us, be fruitful.
Yes.
Be fruitful before you can multiply. So
Yes.
he's not changed his mind about this. We have a meeting in a few days, and this meeting is where we are talking to the believer in the market space. Because if you've been tracking,
Yes.
you've heard us talk about go into the marketplace, find your space, and you will thrive. Now that finding your space, that you saying what is the rod in my hand, what is this that you're saying it is inside of me? Because we noticed
Yes.
that sometimes when you tell people what is in your hand, people still didn't get it. And you have to go back and say, guys, this is what you're talking about, the rod.
And the answer is
Why?
the same,
Yeah.
like the widow, nothing.
Many people will say nothing.
Yeah.
I don't have anything. And we've now seen that no, as we go on with our in-person meeting, we need to talk about this again. We need to talk about what is the road. What is it that is in you? How do I identify so easily? Did God place something inside of me and made it so complicated, complex to find this thing?
The prophet did not take time to tell her what to do.
Yes.
It was instant. What do you have in your house? Good. Go. Not let's pray and seek God on what you have. Let's go through a program to try and find out what you have. Let's unpack this thing. Let's do a research. No. It's within reach.
It is. It is. And that is where we say, if he's your father and you're his son, I think it's us who are complicating. It's us who are saying, no, I'm not able to find. I need to know how to do this. I need to. And that's why we're calling this meeting. Please watch this.
Hello and welcome to Business Unusual. In this season we call the Kingdom Business Reformation. I'd like to invite you to our open meeting where we'll discuss two very interesting pathways that could be existing even in the old world right now that we need to create a clear distinction between. The one place is called the Christian in the marketplace. The other place is called the Kingdom citizen in the market space. Now these two dynamics may sound the same, they are not. And they are, in a nutshell, they are informed by two different paradigms, two different ways of thinking. And those two dimensions of thinking will determine whether the kingdom of God has an impact in the earth or not. The Christian in the marketplace, on average, is somebody who's surviving, barely holding out, always hoping for a miracle, for a divine intervention, for something to change. In fact, they're almost holding on as long as they can, and eventually many times end up exiting and saying, I'm going to full-time ministry. Because that space is hostile, they are not designed to operate in it. The most they think they can do is survive it. But when we talk about the kingdom citizen in the market space, they are the divine intervention. They are the change you're looking for. They are the journey process that functions. And if we understand that, then we'll understand the actual movement of kingdom economy and what we talk about in terms of kingdom impact. So we need to be clear in which of these two dynamics are you operating from. What informs you? And we'll be discussing a core fundamental problem in the thinking processes of the Christian in the marketplace that makes them ineffective in the very space they are in. So they always have to run back into a space called church and then go out there and weather the storms. But when we talk about the kingdom business person in the market space, this person can thrive, function, grow, impact, make change. And there are certain keys, tools and principles that determine how you function in both. So please join us and ask someone to come with you. This could be life-changing.
It's been there since the foundation of the world, reshaping man's thoughts and ideas of life and redirecting man's pursuit in life to fit its agenda. It's a matter of disguise, working through men endlessly, using every way to hinder the advancement of the kingdom of God. It's Mammon, the spirit behind money. Charles and Susan Opio, in their book Unmasking Mammon, help their readers unmask this deadly spirit and embark on a journey back to the Father. Unmasking Mammon is a must read. Now available on Amazon and on order at cyruscom254@gmail.com for physical copies. Grab your copy today and start off your journey to overcoming the spirit of Mammon. Unmasking Mammon by Charles and Susan Opio. Keep it kingdom, keep it pure.